once into the house as anyone else would have done, seems to be that they have some sense of shame left.
They've been eating muffins. That looks like repentance.
They don't seem to notice us at all. Couldn't you cough?
But I haven't got a cough.
They're looking at us. What effrontery.
They're approaching. That's very forward of them.
Let us preserve a dignified silence.
Certainly, it's the only thing to do now.
This dignified silence seems to produce an unpleasant effect.
The most distasteful one.
We will not be the first to speak.
Certainly not.
Mr. Worthing, I have something very particular to ask you. Much depends on your reply.
Your common sense is invaluable, Gwendolen. Mr. Moncrief, kindly answer me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I might have an opportunity of meeting you.
That certainly seems a satisfactory explanation, does it not?
Yes, dear, if you can believe him.
I don't. It doesn't affect the wonderful beauty of his answer.
True, in matters of grave importance, style, not sincerity, is the vital thing. Mr. Worthing, what explanation can you offer to me for pretending to have a brother? Was it in order that you might come to town to see me as often as possible?
Could you ever doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest doubts upon the subject, but I intend to crush them. This is not the moment for German scepticism. Their explanations appear quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's. That seems to me to have the stamp of truth upon it.
I am more than content with what Mr. Moncrief has said. His voice alone inspires one with absolute credulity.
Then you think we should forgive them?
Yes. I mean, no.
True. There are principles at stake that one cannot surrender. Which of us should tell them? The task is not a pleasant one.
Could we both not speak at the same time?
An excellent idea. I nearly always speak at the same time as other people. Will you take the time from me?
Certainly.
Your Christian names are still an insuperable barrier. That is all.
Our Christian names? Is that all? But we're going to be christened this afternoon.
For my sake, you are prepared to do this terrible thing.
I am.
To please me, you're ready to face this fearful ordeal?
I am.
How absurd to talk of the equality of the sexes. Where questions of self-sacrifice are concerned, men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
I have moments of physical courage which we women know nothing.
Darling.
Darling.
Lady Bracknell!
Gwendolen, what does this mean?
Merely that I am engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Come here. Sit down. Sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young and physical weakness in the old. Apprised, sir, of my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid, whose confidence I purchased by means of a small coin, I followed her at once in a luggage train. Her unhappy father is, I'm glad to say, under the impression that she is attending a more than usually lengthy lecture by the University Extension Scheme on the influence of a permanent income on thought. I do not propose to undeceive him. Indeed, I have never undeceived him on any question. I would consider it wrong. But you must clearly understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately from this moment. On this point, as indeed on all points, I am firm.
But I am engaged to be married to Gwendolen, Lady Bracknell.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. And now, as regards Algernon.
Yes, Aunt Augusta?
May I ask if it is in this house that your invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, resides?
Oh no, Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury is somewhere else at present. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead? When did Mr. Bunbury die? His death must have been extremely sudden.
I killed Bunbury this afternoon. I mean, poor Bunbury died this afternoon.
Of what did he die?
Bunbury? Huh. He was quite exploded.
Exploded? Was he the victim of a revolutionary outrage? I was not aware that Mr. Bunbury was interested in social legislation. If so, he is well punished for his morbidity.
My dear Aunt Augusta, I mean, he was found out. The doctors found out that Bunbury couldn't live. That is what I mean. So Bunbury died.
He seemed to have great confidence in the opinion of his physicians. I am glad, however, that he made up his mind at the last to some definite course of action and acted under proper medical advice. And now that we have finally got rid of Mr. Bunbury, may I ask, Mr. Worthing, who is that young person whose hand my nephew Algernon is now holding in what seems to me a peculiarly unnecessary manner?
The lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
I am engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon.
Mr. Moncrief and I are engaged to be married, Lady Bracknell.
I do not know if there is anything peculiarly exciting in the air in this particular part of Hertfordshire. With the number of engagements that go on seem to me to be considerably above the proper average that statistics have laid down for our guidance. I think some preliminary inquiry on my part would not be out of place. Mr. Worthing, is Miss Cardew at all connected with any of the larger railway stations in London? I merely desire information. Until yesterday, I had no idea that there were any families or persons whose origin was a terminus.
Miss Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, SW, Gervais Park, Dorking, Surrey, and the Sporran, Fifeshire, MB.
That sounds not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspire confidence, even tradesmen. But what proof have I of their authenticity?
I have carefully preserved the court guides of the period, and they are open to your inspection, Lady Bracknell.
Yes, well, I have known strange errors in that publication.
The family solicitors are Messrs. Markby, Markby and Markby.
Oh, Markby. A firm of the very highest position in their profession. Indeed, I am told that one of the Mr. Markbys is occasionally to be seen at dinner parties. So far, I am satisfied.
How extremely kind of you, Lady Bracknell. I also have, you will be pleased to note, certificates of Miss Cardew's birth, baptism, whooping cough, registration, confirmation, vaccination, and the measles. Both the German and the English varieties.
A life crowded with incident, I see, but perhaps somewhat too exciting for a young girl. I am not myself in favour of premature experiences. Oh, come dear, the time for our departure approaches. We have not a moment to lose. Oh, as a matter of form, Mr. Worthing, I had better ask you if Miss Cardew has any little fortune.
Oh, about £130,000 in the funds. That is all. Good day, Lady Bracknell, so pleased to have seen you.
One moment, Mr. Worthing. £130,000 and in the funds. Miss Cardew seems to me to be a most attractive young lady. So few girls of the present day have any really solid qualities. Any of the qualities that last and improve with time. We live, I regret to say, in an age of surfaces. Come here, dear. Pretty child. Your dress is sadly simple. Your hair looks almost as nature might have left it, but we can soon alter all that. A really experienced French maid can provide a wonderful result in a very brief space of time. I remember recommending one to young Lady Lancing And after 3 months, her own husband didn't know her.
And after 6 months, nobody knew her.
Oh, all right, sweet child. No, beside you is what I want. Oh, yes, quite as I expected. There are distinct social possibilities in your profile. The two weak points in our age are its want of principle and its want of profile. The chin a little higher, dear. Style largely depends on the way the chin is worn. They are worn very high just at present. Algernon,
Yes, Aunt Augusta?
there are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Cecily is the sweetest, dearest, prettiest girl in the whole world, and I don't give tuppence about social possibilities.
Never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people who can't get into it do that. Now, dear, you know that Algernon has nothing but his debts to depend upon, but I do not approve of mercenary marriages. When I married Lord Bracknell, I had no fortune of any kind, but I have never dreamt for one moment of allowing that to get in my way. Well, I suppose I must give my consent.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Cecily, you may kiss me.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
You may also address me as Aunt Augusta for the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
I think the marriage had better take place quite soon.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
To speak frankly, I am not in favour of long engagements. They give people a chance to get to know one another's character before marriage, which I think is never advisable.
I do beg your pardon for interrupting, Lady Bracknell, but I am afraid this engagement is quite out of the question. You see, Miss Cardew is my ward, and she cannot legally marry before she comes of age without my consent. And that consent I absolutely decline to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? I think Algernon, as it is an extremely, one might almost say ostentatiously eligible young man. He has nothing, but he looks everything. What more can anyone desire?
It pains me very much to have to speak frankly about your nephew, Lady Bracknell, but I'm afraid I have the gravest doubts about Algernon's moral character. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful. My nephew Algernon? Impossible. He's an Oxonian.
I'm afraid there can be no possible doubt about the matter. This afternoon, during my temporary absence in London on an important question of romance, he obtained admission to my house by means of the false pretense of being my brother. Under an assumed name, he drank, I have just been informed by my butler, an entire pint bottle of my Perrier Jouet Brut 89, wine I was specially reserving for myself. Continuing in his disgraceful deception, he succeeded in the course of the evening of alienating the affections of my one and only ward. He subsequently stayed to tea, where he devoured every single muffin. And what makes his conduct all the more heartless is that he did all of this, knowing full well from the first that I have no brother Ernest, that I have never had a brother, and that I certainly have no intention of ever having a brother in the future, not even of any kind. I distinctly told him so myself yesterday afternoon.
Mr. Worthing, after careful consideration, I have decided entirely to overlook my nephew's conduct to you.
Well, that's very generous of you, Lady Bracknell, but I'm afraid my decision is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
Come here, sweet child. How old are you, dear?
Well, I'm really only 18, but I always admit to being 20 at evening parties.
You are quite right to make some slight adjustment. Indeed, no lady should ever be quite accurate about her age. You look so calculating. 18 was also 20 at evening parties. Yes, well, it will not be very long before you are of age and free from the restraints of tutelage. So I don't think, after all, that your guardian's consent is a matter of any importance.
Pray forgive me for interrupting you again, Lady Bracknell, but I feel it's only fair to tell you that under the terms of her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not legally come of age until she is 35.
That doesn't seem to me to be a grave objection. 35 is a very attractive age. London society is full of women of the highest birth who have of their own free will remained 35 for years. Lady Dumbleton is a case in point. To my own knowledge, she has been 35 ever since she arrived at the age of 40. That was many years ago now. I see no reason why our dear Cecily should not be even more attractive at the age you mentioned than she is now. And there will be a large accumulation of property.
Auntie, could you wait till I was 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
Yes, I felt it instinctively. But I hate waiting even 5 minutes. It always makes me rather cross. I'm not punctual myself, I know, but I do like punctuality in others. And waiting even to be married is quite out of the question.
Well, what is to be done, Cecily?
I don't know, Mr. Moncrief.
Mr. Worthing, as Miss Cardew states positively that she cannot wait until she is 35, a remark which I am bound to say seems to me to show a somewhat impatient nature, I would beg of you to reconsider your decision.
But, my dear Lady Bracknell, the decision is entirely in your hands. As soon as you consent to my marriage with Gwendolen, I will gladly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
You must be quite aware that what you propose is out of the question.
Then a passion of celibacy is all that any of us can look forward to.
That is not the destiny that I propose for Gwendolen. Algernon, of course, can choose for himself. Come here. We have already missed 5, if not 6 trains. To miss any more might expose us to comment on the platform.
Everything is quite ready for the christenings.
The christening, sir, is not that slightly premature?
Both these gentlemen have expressed a desire for immediate baptism.
At their age, but the idea is grotesque and irreligious. Algernon, I forbid you to be baptized. Lord Bracknell would be highly displeased if he learnt that this is the way you wasted your time and your money.
Am I to understand then that there are to be no christenings at all this afternoon?
I'm afraid it would not be of much practical value to either of us, Dr. Chasuble.
I am grieved to hear such sentiments from you, Mr. Worthing. They savour of the heretical views of the Anabaptists. However, as your present mood seems to be one peculiarly secular, I shall return to the church at once. Indeed, I have just been informed by the pew opener that for the last hour and a half, Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry.
Miss Prism? Did I hear you mention a Miss Prism?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I am on my way to join her.
Allow me to detain you for a moment. This matter may prove to be of vital importance to Lord Bracknell and myself. Is this Miss Prism a female of repellent aspect, remotely connected with education?
She is the most cultivated of ladies and the very picture of respectability.
It is obviously the same person. May I ask what position she holds in your household?
I am a celibate, madam.
Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell, has been for the last 3 years Miss Cardew's esteemed governess and most valued companion.
In spite of what I hear of her, I must see her immediately. Let it be sent for.
She approaches. She is nigh.
Oh, I was told to expect me in the vestry, dear Canon. I've been waiting for you there for an hour and 3
Prism!
quarters.
Come here, Prism. Prism, where is that baby? 28 years ago, Prism, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104 Upper Grosvenor Square, in charge of a perambulator containing a baby of the male sex. You never returned. Several weeks later, due to the elaborate investigations of the Metropolitan Police, the perambulator was discovered at midnight, standing by itself in a remote corner of Bayswater. It contained the manuscript of a 3-volume novel of more than usually revolting sentimentality, but the baby was not there. Prism, where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I admit with shame that I do not know. I only wish I did. The facts of the case are these. On the morning of the day you mention, a day that is forever branded on my memory, I paid as usual to take the baby out in its perambulator. I had also with me a somewhat old but capacious handbag, in which I had intended to place the work of fiction that I had written in my few unoccupied hours. In an extreme mood of abstraction, for which I can never forgive myself, I deposited the manuscript in the bassinet and placed the baby in the handbag.
But where did you deposit the handbag?
Oh, do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
Miss Prism, I must insist on knowing where you left the handbag that contained the infant.
I left it in the cloakroom of one of the larger London railway stations.
Which station?
Victoria, the Brighton line.
Gwendolyn, I must retire to my dressing room. You will wait for me.
If you are not too long, I will wait for you all my life.
What do you think this means, Lady Bracknell?
I dare not even suspect, Dr. Chasuble. I need hardly tell you that in families of high position, strange coincidences are not supposed to occur. They are hardly
Uncle Jack seems very much annoyed.
Your guardian is a very emotional man.
This noise is extremely unpleasant. It sounds as if you were having an argument. I dislike arguments with an open eye. They are always vulgar and sometimes convincing.
It has stopped now.
Oh!
This suspense is terrible. I hope it will last.
Here is the handbag, Miss Prism. Pray examine it carefully. The happiness of more than one life may depend on your answer.
Seems to be mine. Yes, here is the stain, caused by the upsetting of a Gower Street omnibus in younger and happier days. And here on the lining is the stain caused by the explosion of a temperance beverage, an incident that happened in Leamington. Oh, and here on the lock are my initials. I had forgotten that in an extravagant mood I'd had them placed there. The bag is undoubtedly mine. I am delighted to have it so restored to me unexpectedly, but it has been a great inconvenience being without it all these years.
Miss Prism, more is returned to you than this handbag. I was the infant you placed inside of it.
You?
Yes. Mother!
Oh, Mr. Worthing, I am unmarried.
Unmarried?
Oh,
I do not deny that it is a serious blow. However, who has the right to cast a stone against one who has suffered? Cannot an act of repentance wipe out an act of folly? Why should there be one law for men and another for women? Mother, I forgive you!
Mr. Worthing, there is some error. There is the lady who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell, I hate to seem inquisitive, but would you kindly tell me who I am?
I'm afraid that the news I have to tell you will not entirely please you. You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently, Algernon's elder brother.
Algie's elder brother? Well, then I have a brother after all. I knew I had a brother! I always said I had a brother, Cecily! How could you have doubted me? Dr. Chasuble, my unfortunate brother, Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother, Gwendolyn, my unfortunate brother. You young scoundrel, Algie! You ought to behave to me with more respect in the future. You have never treated me like a brother in all your life.
Well, not till today, old boy, I admit. I did my best, however, though I was out of practice.
My own? But what own are you?
What is your Christian name now that you have become someone else?
That's right, I had quite forgotten about that. Your decision on my name is irrevocable, I suppose.
I never change, except in my affections.
What a noble nature you have, Gwendolen.
Well, then the question had better be cleared up at once. Aunt Augusta, at the moment when I had been deposited in the handbag, had I been christened already?
Every luxury that money could buy, including christening, had been lavished upon you by your fond and doting parents.
Then I have been christened. That settles that. Now, what name was I given? Pray let me know the worst.
Well, as the eldest son, you were naturally christened after your father.
Yes, but what was my father's Christian name?
I cannot for the present moment recall what the General's Christian name was. But I have no doubt that he had one. He was eccentric, I admit, but that was in later years and was a result of the Indian climate and marriage and indigestion and other things of that kind.
Algie, can't you remember what our father's name was?
My dear boy, we were never even on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
His name would appear in the army list of the period, I suppose.
But the General was essentially a man of peace, except in his domestic life. And I have no doubt that his name would appear in any military directory.
The army list of the last 40 years are here. His volume should have been my constant study. Generals. Malum, Maxbone, Magley. What ghastly names they all have. Malum, Markbim, Migsbim, Moncrief. Lieutenant, 1840. Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel. General, 1869. Christian names, Earnest, John. Gwendolen, I had always told you my name was Earnest. Well, it is Earnest. I mean, it naturally is Earnest.
Ah, yes, I remember now the General was called Earnest. I knew I had some particular reason for disliking the name.
Ernest, my own Ernest. I felt from the first you could have no other name.
Gwendolen, it's a very painful thing to find out that all one's life one has been speaking nothing but the truth. Could you forgive me?
I can, for I feel you are sure to change.
Darling,
Letitia!
Oh, Frederick at last!
Cecily, at last!
Gwendolen, at last!
My nephew, you seem to be showing signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I have now realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.
Yeah.